following is a Comfortably Zoned Radio Network production.
Thank you, Tally Olson. We are back. Bronx Roots with Michael Preminger, David Hubler, and me, Ralph Tyko. Now, we have a little problem. We're worried about David this morning. He's not here. Michael is. How the heck are you, Michael?
I'm good.
Good. We're just talking off the air a little bit. I'm very, very proud of this show, in particular, many of the shows on this network. But this show in particular, I've got two of the most incredibly interesting people, you and David. And
thank you.
I just love to chat and kibbiz about life. And
me too. That's what I do. I think basically that's what I've done my whole life.
Right,
just
exactly.
kibbiz.
What are you doing? Just shooting. We used to call it shooting the shit.
Right, exactly.
Remember on the
corner? A lovely
corner?
term.
Yeah, a lovely term. But I've picked up a lot over the years, and the important things stick with me. So.
Oh yeah.
What do you miss most about the Bronx? Just off the top of your head, if you were, besides your youth.
Youth. My
okay.
youth.
Youth.
Yeah, that's right. You two youths. Off the top of my head, I would say my youth. I'd like to go back. I know some people, obviously you can't, and some people do. I don't know. I think I missed out, especially on social life.
Well, you did go, we talked about this briefly, you did go to an all-boys high school.
Yes.
And David didn't seem to miss a beat with it when we talked about it before. But I can imagine that had to be a little bit stifling, let's put it that way.
Yeah. And yes. The first year or so, we a bunch of guys, a lot of people used to hang out in this one particular place. So there were the girls who were a year behind us, like in junior high school. I don't know. I just maybe because I'm single at this late age, and so I think about all the girls. Isn't there a song?
All the girls I could have had. All the girls I should have had.
Or just dated, just held. I'm getting into a psychiatric mode here where I don't want to go.
Why do you, if you're single and don't want to be that way, reach out? There are all kinds of ways.
Yeah, there are. I guess it just, I don't know. Obviously, it's not vital, so to speak. After a while, you get into not even habits.
You enjoy your own company, and
sometimes I do, but it probably would be nicer to share. Well, I'll wait. There's a lady at the Jewish home where I volunteer. She's been married twice, once when she was 20 and once when she was 80. So, like I said to her, so I have some time.
Yeah.
80.
And, time, when we talk about age, what age, it's just a number. I think in your head, you're still 30.
Yes. like living those years again, or certainly in my 40s, because of my grandchildren. Like yesterday, I was at my grandson's basketball game. He's 7. And I remember when my son played it when he was 7. So it's almost like, what would you say in the movie business? So a reboot. It's the same gym, the same ball.
Right.
And
what did you do differently than your parents did in raising your son, and what does he do differently, or daughter, in your child, and what does she do differently in raising your grandchild? Is there anything that,
my daughter
is
well, when I was a kid, I know we've talked about this, we didn't really have, not even really, we didn't have Little League, or if we did, I think there was Little League, but I was never on a Little League team. And my father had a grocery store, so he didn't, plus he wasn't interested in sports. It just something I wish I had followed him in some sense of being interested in the stock market. Maybe I would have more than $12 in the bank. But
you might have jumped off the roof at one time if you.
Yeah, that's true.
That's had its ups and downs over the years too.
That's true. You're right.
So,
well, I'll tell you one thing,
and it's only money at this point.
Yeah, it's only money. What the heck?
Well, I'm saying. Okay. Well, you've done good.
My daughter has gone to like every game that my grandson has played. She goes. She brings along my granddaughter, and they watch the game. And now my daughter is even going to co-coach my granddaughter's t-ball team. Now that's something that.
Wow! Now that's the second generation. I mean, the second sibling to get into
my
baseball.
ex-wife did not participate at all. She would occasionally come to a game of my son or my daughter, but not all the time. So that's been a huge change when you ask what's the difference. That's my daughter is very makes sure that she spends time with my son, my grandson. So it's a little different, and it's really going to get even more so now that my granddaughter's going to play, and my grandson's going to play, and I know we've talked about his father as the coach.
Right.
So that's the big difference. I never missed any practices or games, but I never coached. I didn't feel that I knew enough to, or was strict enough. If the kids started fooling around, I would say, okay, I'm going home. I just was not.
All right.
Good.
Here's another topic that I've thought about over the years now, that 2 years we've been doing this. We all three grew up, and again, David missed connections with us this morning. He'll be here in 2 weeks, I'm sure. We all grew up in the Bronx. I was half in Queens, half up at my grandparents in the Bronx. but cars, automobiles, were almost, if you had an automobile, it could be more of a pain in the ass than it was worth in the city. Am I right? And we both all three of us move out of New York, where cars are an absolute necessity. What was your adjustment to that? Did you drive when you were in New York and you had a...
No. No.
So you had to learn in California?
Yeah.
Me too. It's learning as an adult is learning to drive, especially having to be taught to drive, is not fun. What was that like for you? For me, it was horrible.
It was tough. I joke, but it's not so much a joke. I would, when I first came out, or shortly after I came out here, I got a job which was I had to go over a canyon to get to the job from the valley to the city. Right. And I was glad that I had to go during rush hour, because that meant the traffic was hardly moving. Because I was petrified if I had to go over like 20 or 25 miles an hour. It was like, oh my God, what am I going to do? As you say, I still don't enjoy. I don't like going on the freeway. And this is 40 years later.
Bridges, I'm sure you. That's occurred to you, going over a bridge and.
Well, we don't have. Now that you say that, there are no bridges, or not that I have to go over. But it's so
Northern
true
California,
about.
we've got bridges.
You got. Yeah. I had driven a little bit in New York, but not in I never drove in Manhattan. I drove from the Bronx to McGuire Air Force Base in New Jersey when I was in the reserves, and that's the only time I don't even remember. I think I used a cousin's car, but I never had a. Here's how stupid I am, Ralph, and this is true. It should be embarrassing, and it is. The first car I had here was, and I forgot how I got it. It was I've never had a new car, and this was an old Vega, which I called
I had a Vega in 71 or something like that. I had a Vega too. 4 cylinders, couldn't get it to go fast if you drove it off a cliff.
That's very funny. Fast. I didn't even know how to go fast. But here's how stupid I was, and when I think about it, maybe the gas station I used to go into knew about it and just was taking my money. Almost every time I went in, the car needed oil. I'm telling you, and I'm so dumb. I thought that's when you go in the gas station, you get oil and gas. I had no idea. That's what I knew and still know about cars. At least I know now if you need oil every time, you're in trouble. But that was my...
Well, I'll tell you what I know about cars, and you can put it in your eye and read. I bought a tricked-out camper van to live in for a period of time in my life. It had everything. It was like a little apartment. And I bought it. It was a year old. Speaking of not buying anything new, with cars, let the depreciation in the first year be paid by somebody else, that kind of thing. But I bought it a year old, and it was like new, and I was faithful in getting everything checked. And this guy at the garage would check everything and go under the hood, but the transmission fluid which I didn't know anything about, of course, was under the hood in the inside of the car. You had to open that up. And the guy was never doing that. So the day, and it was paying $450 a month for literally 5 years for this vehicle.
Well,
almost to the day when it was paid off, the transmission blew.
Oh, jeez.
It had not gotten any oil, any transmission fluid in there, and it blew. And it was partially my fault, but I couldn't help blaming it on, at least in my mind, there was nothing I could do about it, blaming it on this guy who was just checking everything to keep it going, because I knew nothing about it, when it...
okay, I'm like me. Wow. Oh, that's awful.
That was and I was devastated by that, I must say.
Yeah.
But from not knowing, not keeping up, not cause not being second nature to me, the car to me was the IRT, the third car in the IRT was.
There you go.
And it was 15 cents to get on the subway, and there was no maintenance, no tickets, no parking problems. It was very easy. California is different. Only in the last 7-8 years, I've been I don't have a vehicle anymore. Voluntarily, living in Alameda, California. It's a little city, and public transportation is horrific. Get into San Francisco in 9 minutes on a bus, that kind of thing. So maybe not 9 minutes, but 20 minutes. So I walk a lot. Get a day pass on the bus if I'm going to Berkeley or whatever. It is a different atmosphere than different. Southern California is all driving, and so I've not dependent on that anymore. I've reduced the stress of it, and that's what it is. But I don't want to say, there were times, I'm sure for you too, where you had fun with cars, with driving, and I don't know if that's the case.
I don't know if as far as fun, like I say, I've never,
you never went out for a Sunday drive, in other words, just with no place to go.
You know what? I've never done that. I think twice. My ex-wife, she would do that with me sometimes, and she was right. It was like, let's just get in the car and go somewhere. And that got me out of the house. Like today, Sunday, it's a beautiful day down here, but I'm going to watch the ball games and have an egg salad sandwich.
Well,
I'm not an exciting guy. Let's put it that way.
Well, you don't have to be an exciting guy. You could just live peacefully. That's nothing wrong with that. Yeah.
Because your question is good. That's another thing that my daughter does, and my son-in-law. They'll almost always go somewhere. I don't know what they might be doing today, but they always find somewhere to take the kids, which I think is wonderful. And that would be their, like you say, Sunday drive. And that's very, very smart.
Yeah.
Very smart.
And just, being in motion is nice. Seeing the scenery and what have you. When I first got out to California in the Air Force, the freeways were wide open. It was no traffic jams, no backups. That has changed immensely in Northern California. Just as bad traffic-wise as LA. But
is that
back
right?
then, I was halfway between Sacramento and San Francisco, and I'd just go out, whatever car I had, and just put the windows down or the top down if it was a convertible, and it was a couple of times. Maybe 8 used cars over that period of time, and just drive. It was very, very nice. A hot summer's night in California, driving. Now, it's almost a thing of the past to think, well, let's get in the car, go someplace. You don't do that. One doesn't do that anymore. It's changing. Not only was gas 30 cents a gallon back then, and it's $3 and upward now. It's just the pollution on the roads, all of it. It's different life in California. What year did you come out here?
In 75.
I was 10 years or so ahead of you. Involuntarily, but I stayed when I got out of the service. So then it became voluntarily. What was the major adjustment when you got out? The major difference between living in New York and California?
Well, exactly what we've been talking about was transportation.
Okay.
I either had to rely on a friend or two or whatever, or my girlfriend who became my wife. She was the one who took us around.
And did she teach you to drive?
No, because I had driven a little bit, but that's a good question. She had an MG, which was a stick shift.
Right.
And one day she said, "Come on, I'm going to teach you how to drive this." Now we went to this big empty parking lot. And after about 15 or maybe 10 minutes, she said, "No." It was like, forget about it.
There's a little rhythm, clutch, gas, clutch.
Yeah.
Not having to stall out and switching the gears. It can be intimidating. I had to learn to drive a stick shift when I bought a Healy, an Austin Healy, which was same kind of car, in essence, English car as an MG, style a little bit differently, but it took me a while, and I got it. I got it down. But that was one of the convertibles. I had that for a short period of time, and I loved driving that thing on the freeways and the roads. And
good for you. Good for you.
Yeah, that was a major adjustment. The people are different in California, would you say?
The reason I'm hesitating,
most of your friends are probably New Yorkers.
Yeah. When I first came out here, it did seem, when I would especially go on stage, it seemed different. It did seem different, and
right.
Perhaps it was. I can't. It's been so long now.
Yeah, it's not a right or wrong.
New York
it's a much
rude
less cynical group of folks out here, certainly, than in New York. There's a New York attitude that's very distinct.
Well, I don't know. I mean, 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 I don't I wish I could put my finger on it, and I can't. Maybe because I grew up, so you're just used to, people go, New Yorkers are so rude, and I don't know.
Well, they're open and they tell you what they think, or
yeah, that's true. I don't know. The one thing, and I know I've said this on the podcast before, where people used to anyway say, "Oh, the streets are so dirty," and I would tell them, "Well, then look up."
That's right.
Instead of walking around with your head down, look up and you'll be fine. And the last time I was in New York was 5 years ago already. It was very exciting.
And the streets have cleaned up. I was there about 3 years ago, and the streets are much cleaner than I remember them being.
And the subways. Boy, when they show movies, when you see a movie from the 70s and they use New York subways, it's all the graffiti. It was awful.
Right.
Awful.
Right. And I don't know. I haven't been on the. We used to call them the tubes. Haven't been on the tubes. In the tubes for a long time. There was a distinctive smell at times that never goes away in your mind. You say, "I got to avoid that." I'll do what I do what I can to avoid that.
Yeah. But as far as the people, I don't know. I remember.
Go ahead.
When I was first out here, and I'd hear people go how they don't, New Yorkers, they don't miss New York, and it's this and that, and then I used to say, well, you're not a real New Yorker then. I mean, it's just boo to you.
Right.
Now, I don't know. It's as I say, it's been too long. My son-in-law's father has been visiting, and he goes back today or Monday. He lives in New York or New Rochelle, right outside of New York, and the weather is like this weekend is just gorgeous here, and he's going back to snow, and it's bad. So weather-wise,
no comparison.
I guess there's no comparison
in terms of quality of life from that standpoint. Bad weather, be it hot or cold, and I talk to a lot of the podcasters on this network are back there. It can depress you. I mean,
sure.
And some people are sun freaks. They enjoy the vitamin D or whatever that comes out. It's good for them, and it's depressing. And you're indoors, and when you go outdoors, you have to bundle up, and yeah. So
no, we have it real easy down here. Real easy as far as the cold or yeah. Sometimes it looks exotic or romantic almost. You got to put on all these clothes, and then when you take them all off into a warm apartment or house. But I think people would hit me right in the head if I said that to them. They say, yeah, okay, well, you stay here, we'll come out there.
It looks so much better in the movies.
Thank you.
New York looks great in the winter in the movies with the snow and the it's beautiful until the snow gets yellow. That's after the movie's over. You don't see that, but in real life, and to say nothing about slipping and falling and breaking hips and all that.
Oh yeah, no, terrible for older people. Absolutely bad, real bad.
So, all right, that's our ode to California for the day. How about that?
Yeah, for the day. So what about, well, you've on the sports, your sports podcast, but do you think they'll ever take the title away from Houston?
No, they won't. They didn't take the pennant away from the Giants when the Giants stole the signs.
That's right. That's right.
It would be, and I was a Giant fan, and finding out about that was kind of disturbing because, you know, the Bobby Thompson days, and it was a little before my time, my memory time. I saw the Giants in '51, but I didn't have a clear memory I was so young. But it was like the legend, and you grew up as a Giant fan. The Giants win the pennant and all that. And it was done with a little thievery, no question about it. They had an elaborate system of sign stealing and communicating it to the batter and this, that, and the other thing. So. But they didn't take, long story, they didn't take the title away, and they probably won't with this. But it shocked me how how widespread it was. And now they're coming out that Tony La Russa, when he was managing Chicago, had a sign-stealing thing going on.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so it's not uncommon, but I commend the commissioner for taking a stance. You gotta keep the game on the up and up, as it were. But it's indicative of society. People are gonna find a way to cheat. Percentage of people are going to get the upper hand, that kind of thing. If it ain't cheating, it ain't cheating unless you get caught. That's their people's philosophy. So
you make a good point there. That's true.
And
that's true.
We forget about the guys that threw spitballs, Gaylord Perry and Phil Necro, and his brother Bob Necro, whatever, got caught with a nail file, doctoring up the baseball. But you know, and I've said this on other podcasts. I must say it every time I can. The art of sign stealing can't be underestimated. The legal art, it's something that's part of the game, where you try to find out what pitch is going to be thrown. Stealing signs legally is a skill, and a much appreciated skill over the years. Got players who could do that. When you think about it, you just have to differentiate the fact that this is all electronics that they're talking about, and it's legal. Right. It's not between the lines. So it's a whole different thing. People say, well, they always stole signs. That's part of the game. Yeah, but the illegal part. So if you could differentiate that in your head, and but it's a blemish on baseball. It's every bit as much as the steroidal thing.
Yes. And you can imagine down here, Dodger fans are really not happy.
They
really feel they were cheated out of if not one, but two World Series.
And the Yankees were cheated by them, too, in a playoff game by Houston.
Oh, right.
So they're not happy. And and I'm not happy because it distracts from, when I was a kid, when we were kids, baseball was the distraction from life. It wasn't part of life. At least it was, but we didn't know about it. We didn't know about the underside of it. But, I like to think that spring training is starting, and we could think about other things besides cheating and scandals, and how it's so magnifies how life is. It reflects how life is. It's a microcosm of life, or life is a microcosm of baseball. I've never been able to figure that one out, which it is. But I try. I do the best I can. Michael, I've enjoyed your company this morning as usual.
Same here.
Okay. I'm worried about David. I'm going to call him right after this.
He's never missed
the air. Missed him. We'll see him in 2 weeks, God be willing. And stay healthy, my friend.
You too. Thank you.
We described the way of we came up with a way of describing what we do here. We kibbiz. Therefore we are.
That's right.
All right, Michael. Take care of yourself.
Okay.
Thank you for listening, everyone. It's Bronx Roots. Michael Preminger, David Hubler's not here. I am Ralph Tyko, the weak link of it all. Adios. The proceeding has been a comfortably zoned network production. You are advised to keep your dreams wet, your humor dry, your children and grandchildren out of military recruiting offices and off the laps of clerics who wear dresses. Thank you for listening, everyone. Happy trails.